Hello, I'm Murata Kazu. Today's star is Yo-chan, the editor of this channel, an office worker, and also a female carpenter. I'll be handling the narration and filming.
大丈夫これ片手でやるかな。
いきなりや。
In this project, we'll take on the challenge of full-length flooring installation for the entryway and hallway. We'll explore the struggles of a female carpenter and the realities of renovation work. I'll explain it from a carpenter's perspective, aimed at beginner DIYers and apprentice carpenters. There might be some harsh words, but please stay with us until the end.
今日はよっちゃん半分こずつして貼ろうか。
半分こってどういう意味？
真ん中から貼り分ける。ちょうどここからまあ大体半分だから、難易度的にはどっちだろう。俺かまち側やるね。
はい。
ここをさ、本当でしないで、よっちゃん向こう向いて綺麗にさ、つけて貼ってで、僕こっちひっくり返して向こう向いて貼ってから、で最後今回はリフォームかまちを後からはめるパターンでいこうか。
最後にね。
で水平方向で気をつけて最後ピタッと合わせるイメージ。
はい。
半分ずつやっていけばスムーズに終わるかな。問題はこっちだよ。三尺角めくります。
We'll peel off and repair the areas where the floor feels loose and spongy. Upon checking the joist positions, this time they are arranged lengthwise.
ここの幅をさ、ちょっとでも見た目良くするためにちょっと一部だけ向こうにずらしていくわ。じゃあで、あと目地もねずれた方がいいからね。ここで作るのちょっとこっちで作るみたいな。お茶代で5000円くれました。半分やってくれたら嬉しいわ。
Let's start installing the floor. First, we'll mark a reference line and use it as the basis for the flooring. This reference line determines the entire finish. If the line is off, the entire installation will be misaligned, so we need to be careful. Unless Yo-chan finishes the first row quickly, I can't move on to the next task. There are various ways to measure the dimensions for the first row, but this time, we'll keep it simple by using a framing square. Since the wall isn't straight, it looks like she measured about one shaku, approximately 30 centimeters, at a time. Here's the measurement Yo-chan took for the first row of the floor. This is the flooring material we'll be using. This is composite flooring, made with a plywood core and a veneer or sheet finish on the surface. For this project, we're using flooring with a sheet surface. We'll slightly tilt the circular saw blade to cut the material. If the floor isn't level, cutting at a right angle won't allow the pieces to fit perfectly. We'll score the surface with a cutter to create a guideline. A poorly cut edge can cause the surface sheet or veneer to peel off. Until now, Yo-chan has been assisting with tasks, but this time she's suddenly in charge of starting the installation, which has made her a bit nervous. And then, right away, Yo-chan made a mistake.
どう？
間違えた。
なんで？あれ？
ここで切っちゃった。ここのあれで全部ずれてきちゃった。
なんでなの？
待って、今からこう切るためにちょっとここ合うかなと思って持って。
ただ間違えてうちの墨で切っちゃったってこと？あ、
こっちはもうバッチシあったけど、切る場所間違えた。
それさ、うちのでいくつや？あ、向こう持って行ってよ。それ使いな。入れよ。あれ入らんな。ああ。まあまあまあ。
えた。
どうですか、その一発目間違えたそのお気持ちってどうですか？
スタートでつまずいて。
どんな気分ですか？
いや、ちょっと気を引き締め直したんで、
あ、気合が入ったね。むしろ
むしろ
も
急がなきゃ。
いいじゃん、ポジティブで。
In my experience, when you make a mistake first thing in the morning, the rest of the day often doesn't go well. We connected the circular saw to the dust collector and began removing the loose existing floorboards. At this stage, a cutting depth of about 13 millimeters is ideal for the circular saw blade. In the past, it was common to apply glue directly to the joists and lay the floorboards on top. As a result, after removing the boards, adhesive residue remains, which must be scraped off with a scraper or chisel. We found some mysterious reinforcing hardware under the floor.
なんだろう。
I doubt this was done by a professional carpenter. It's tempting to make some comments about it.
不思議やな。あんな下場でスクリューって繋いどんのかね。なんだろうねこれ。あんま言ったらあかんか。あ。よいしょ。でかっ。
Next, we cut the plywood that will replace the part of the floor we removed.
貼り始めやってくれるからすごい楽。
Usually, we'd use a single 3shaku square, 910mm plywood board, but we forgot to bring one this time.
よいしょ。
Instead, we're using some leftover plywood we had in the truck and patching it together. Since this is just partial underlayment repair, to address the spongy areas, it shouldn't cause any major issues. However, if the pieces fit too tightly, it might cause the floor to creak. Also, when installing the flooring above, we must remember to apply glue at the joint areas.
これをやりたかったんだ。
Now, Yo-chan is finally starting to cut the pieces for the initial row of flooring. She knows how to use a circular saw, but I haven't taught her how to use other hand tools yet. After all, she's not a carpenter. She's learning by observing and copying. Even with her 10 years of experience in the renovation industry, she still seems nervous.
ひなたのみでコーンとさらえたの。
はい。
This time, I won't assist her at all. She'll do everything on her own. Her pace isn't fast, but you can see her personality reflected in the way she works. It might be a delicate touch unique to women. Here's the actual speed at which she's working. She's being very cautious with each step. However, being overly cautious can sometimes lead to mistakes. Sometimes you need to take bold action to move forward. She's afraid of cutting too far past the marked line, so she's taking extra care with her cuts. But focusing too hard for too long can drain her concentration, which can lead to mistakes. And as a result, she made another mistake. It's unfortunate, but we don't have time to dwell on it.
そうそう、今までですね。まばたきですね。ここが確かに。ここで決まる。まだかけないか。逃げすぎや。うん、逃げすぎ逃げすぎ。逃げた方がいい。
If sawdust gets into your eyes, it's hard to get out and can cause a lot of discomfort. In such cases, you'd need an ophthalmologist to remove it. But the wait until then can be very painful. Carpenters often work with their eyes half closed in situations like this. They rely on their sense to gauge the direction of the flying wood chips. Still, no matter how careful you are, there are times when wood chips will find their way into your eyes. Recently, there's been an increase in female tradespeople active on social media, and Yot Chan seems inspired by them. Thanks to that, since we started this YouTube channel, she hasn't complained as much as she used to, although I can't say for sure what she really thinks. Carpentry is ultimately a battle against oneself. While comparing yourself to others is important, what matters most is not losing to your own limitations. I'll switch gears and start installing the first row of flooring.
大丈夫？これ決めていいの？見てる？2枚目はさ、気持ち握り目に打つと、後で叩くのは簡単なんだけど、ガンガンに寄せすぎると偉いよ。
If you push the first row in too much, it becomes difficult to adjust later. When installing the second row, the first row can get pushed further inward. So, it's important to position it conservatively to prevent it from crossing the guideline. After laying the second row, I'll recheck the alignment of the first row and secure it. Think of the first and second rows as a set that must be finished together. According to the manual, short edges should be nailed down, but in renovation work, it's not always necessary. If you nail unnecessarily, it can actually cause the floor to creak later on. Renovation and new construction have different conditions. Renovations typically lack the thick underlayment used in new builds. The manual is a standard for maintaining quality, and it's also a way for material manufacturers and home builders to avoid liability if something goes wrong. Every craftsman has their own methods, and sometimes it's important to trust your experience and instincts. We've managed to finish installing the foundational rows of flooring. Next, we'll work backward from the opposite side, starting with 3 boards. Since only 2 rows need to be nailed down, we'll continue laying boards without changing direction. For the grooves in the boards, we can't use a floor nailer, so we drill pilot holes and secure them with special flooring screws. Because we used a short drill bit, the pilot holes were shallow, making it harder to drive in the screws. In tight spaces where a hammer can't be used, we use a nail punch to properly sink the screws. We could use a finish nailer with pneumatic tools, but screws provide stronger hold, so we opted for this method.
はい、これはですね、メンタ同士、サネのメス同士に合わせる棒です。ちょっと削って差し込んでいきます。
Next, we'll prepare spline strips to connect the boards that Yo-chan installed on the opposite side. By inserting these strips into the grooves, we can turn a groove into a tongue. While Yo-chan continues her work, I'm preparing the floorboards around the staircase. The ideal fit for floorboards is when they can be pressed into place with just your fingertips. If you force them in by hammering, it increases the risk of the floor creaking later.
ああ、ちょうどいいね。うっちゃん、これぐらいが本当に一番いいと思うよ。あ、ちょっとこれウレタンボンド入れてこうかね。こんなんね。ここね。あ、ボンドつけた？
ボンドつけます。
ちゃんと根頼みに打たなあかんねさ。覚えとかなあかんね、本当は。
なんとなく。
いや、なんとなくじゃダメ。左からいくつって見て。
8数と1数。
尺8数だ。
尺8数。
ちゃんとグッと押さなあかんね。浮きそうやな。なんでかわかる？片手でやるからね。そんな8寸の尺8寸に墨ちょんちょんとすればよかっただけど。辛い位置にしてみる？弦のは飛び出とるのがあるからね。針じまいはさ、左足で体重乗せてやらんと、そんな左で集中して右手だけでやったらあかんねん。せめて足の線とさ、浮いとるよこれ。難しかったね。
ここだけ最後ちょっと削ったんだ。
怖かったよね。
どうしても入らなくて、そこは。
いやいやいや、こんなんで言われたら大工さん困るぞ。十分やね。これが困る。うまいね。うちゃん。
なんとか。
こんだけすいてもいいんやね、別に。これ 0.5 から1ミリ弱あるけど。
Now we're finally moving on to the last row of flooring. part I'm handling is also challenging since it requires tight fitting on both sides. But it's going much faster compared to Yochan's work. I'm double nailing the flooring with a nail gun because the plywood nowadays is softer than it used to be, and the nails sink more easily. Now, let's start working on the door frame. Typically, the door frame is installed first, but since this is a renovation site with an outdoor workspace, it makes more sense to work from the back and finish by installing the door frame at the end. I intentionally tilted the base of the circular saw slightly to add an angle to the cut for a better fit. When cutting the width of the retrofit door frame, I also angled the blade slightly inward for a cleaner finish. We added a slight step between the floor and the door frame to hide the end grain. Using masking tape, we adjusted the height to about 0.5 millimeters. To leave room for the glue, we placed the tape about 15 millimeters away from the edge. While installing the floor, some glue overflowed, but it's not a major issue. There were minor mistakes in the process, but we adjusted as needed. Recently, thinner 6mm flooring has become more common, but retrofit door frames are compatible with both 12mm and 6mm materials. Even though adjustment materials are available, many frames are warped, requiring on-site modifications. The edges may feel sturdier now, but the added steps in the process make it more labor-intensive. I wish they'd bring back 12mm specific door frames. Finally, I've completed the section I was in charge of. All that's left is the final row of flooring. Let's see if Yochan can finish it off nicely. It's a one-shot deal. If you try to install the flooring all at once, it won't align properly and will become stiff. You could hammer it in, but the trick here is to gently bring each piece as close as possible. Finally, we'll check the joist positions again and secure the last pieces with finish nails. With that, the entryway and hallway flooring is complete. This is the section I worked on. And this is the section that Yo-chan installed. It's beautifully done. Even from a professional carpenter's perspective, if we consider her effort, I'd say it deserves 100 points. She proved that she could do it if she tried. Channel 登録お願いします。ご視聴ありがとうございました。